Hello, my name is George Smith. You may know me from a book I wrote over 30 years ago called Atheist, the Case Against God, and some of you may know me from my various activities in the libertarian movement over the past 40 years. I've been asked by my friend who's filming this, Debbie Clark, to say a few words about Ron Paul. She's a Ron Paul supporter. So is my dog. I want to introduce my dog Herbert. He's named after Herbert Spencer. He's also a strong Ron Paul supporter. Herbert and I were playing our daily game of chess, and the reason I'm filming this is because Herbert, as he often does, he's a real political junkie, follows the Republican primary especially closely, and he interrupted our game. He was getting beat, actually. He does not know how to play Evans Gambit. I tried to show him how not to get trapped, but he's just not a very good chess player. But despite that, he brought up the issue of why wasn't I going to vote for Ron Paul, because I like Ron Paul. Ron Paul's a good guy. And he was wondering when I said I wasn't going to vote why that was. And Debbie asked me to say a few words about this. Well, I explained that I couldn't really give an unqualified endorsement, and Herbert's a little concerned because Herbert wants to vote. And he wants to vote for Ron Paul. Now, I had to explain to him that where I live here in central Illinois in McLean County, they don't let dogs vote. For that, I have to take him up to Chicago, because in Cook County they do let dogs and cats and various farm animals vote. That is, of course, unless they're illegal animals like Mexican Chihuahua, something like that. But for the most part, they have a very liberal voting policy in Chicago. So I'm going to take him up there so he can cast his vote proudly for Ron Paul. Now, what's my position on Ron Paul? Well, I'm addressing mainly my fellow libertarians, because that's what I've been most of my life. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, he's not consistent. He's not consistently libertarian. His position on immigration is not something that many of us agree with, for example. And that's quite correct. I would say that I think Ron Paul is probably 92-93% libertarian on his positions, and I'd say that ain't bad. So I don't see that as any type of decisive reason not to vote for him. The second thing is that some libertarians have said, well, he wouldn't stand a chance of winning. Even if he got the Republican nomination, which probably isn't going to happen, he never would be elected president. And that's probably true, let's be frank about it. My position on this is just imagine if he only got 10% of the vote. It would imagine the effect that would have on the establishment politicians. It would send them into a panic. To illustrate this, now I have to say when I mentioned Fox News that I'm not personally a fan of Fox News. But Herbert loves the channel. It's on his intellectual level. He loves the O'Reilly factor, although at times even Herbert just, when O'Reilly talks about the war on Christmas, it really bothers poor Herbert. He was convinced that there was going to be a war on Christmas, and he didn't want to lose his steak dinner, every Christmas. I had to reassure him that O'Reilly was not, well, shall we say, entirely accurate about that point, but he really likes O'Reilly. He also likes Sean Hannity. And if any of you watched the Republican debates, and Herbert insisted that I watch them with him on the Fox News channel, after the debates were over, they had this little poll where people called in to vote to see who won the debate. And the two that I watched, that I remember at least, were Ron Paul got most votes by quite a wide margin. And poor Sean Hannity went into one of his sputtering fits. It really bothered Herbert. He loved Sean Hannity, and he looked very distressed. But Sean Hannity kind of went, he didn't want to talk about it, but every time it came up that Ron Paul won the vote for winning the debate, Hannity would say something like, oh, well, that must just be a small group of libertarians and each one's voting like 100 times. And, that may be true. We libertarians, after all, are an inventive and industrious tribe. But what I'm saying here is imagine that kind of Sean Hannity sputtering fit on a national level. Imagine all the establishment politicians, even with 10% of the vote for Ron Paul, just beside themselves with worry, like, gee, maybe not everyone's buying this BS that we're feeding them. That, I think, would be a very healthy tonic for America. But despite what I've said, as some of you may know, I have been a lifelong critic and opponent of voting. I've never voted, I'm a voting virgin, and I don't plan to vote in the next election. So how can I give an endorsement of Ron Paul? Well, this is a qualified endorsement, and I will explain that the following way. I would compare my position on Ron Paul to this sort of hokey sex education that some of the kids get in the public schools. And the position there basically is kids don't have sex. But if you do have sex, if you must have sex, by all means use a condom. My position on Ron Paul is as follows. Don't vote. It only encourages them. But if you do vote, if you must vote, if you cannot control your political impulses, then by all means vote for Ron Paul.